the Astro Observers for November 2020 observing highlights. And this is my highlights. I had 2 nights. First one was on 11/13/2020, and that was DS Edge with the 6-inch and the 12-inch f4. The sky conditions were good. Rob, you were there with me that night.
Yep.
And started off poor and got better as the night went on. And then my second night was on a few days later, 11/18. This was at Hawk Mountain, and I just had the 6-inch f5, and the sky conditions were good early on. It started to crap out a little bit later on, but
Yeah.
it was still a good night, still a good fun night. So here's the 6-inch. It's the GSO 6-inch f5, and we'll do some of its some of the objects I viewed through that scope. This one is NGC 457. Of course, the owl cluster. Some people like to call it the ET cluster. I know, but I'm not a big ET fan. It's been named the owl cluster for a long time, and I like owls personally. And of course, when we're out observing, how many times you hear owls at night? Whether great horn or barred owl or screech owl and stuff like that. So of course, I like to call it the owl cluster. And this was a view that I had using a 20mm super wide angle field eyepiece, and this is from DS Edge. It's funny. A lot of people wonder about the 2 brightest stars that we see making the eyes, and they are slightly foreground objects. So the cluster itself is actually slightly in the background compared to the 2 brighter stars that make up the eyes of the owl. But I really like the view. I mean, this is a really great cluster to view. I could see some of the brighter, like this brighter red star in here. I could see that definitely had some color to it. And of course, the majority of the stars, which were about 35 to 40 stars or so that I was seeing in the cluster itself, mostly blue-white stars. But overall, the view was really cool. And I just like this object because it looks like what you say it does. It looks like an owl flying through the stars. So that's why I like to call it the owl cluster. And then this is really a great cluster. And I know we have guys in our club that really think this is a great object. NGC 7789 Cassiopeia. And it's called Caroline's Rose, also Caroline Herschel. And I think there's something between 600 to 1,000 stars in this cluster. So it's almost like a very sparse globular cluster, and when you first see it, especially at lower magnification. So I used a little bit more magnification here than compared to the owl, and it really showed a nice peppering of stars. The cluster stood out well. It, of course, lies in a rich region of stars, but the cluster does stand out. And I couldn't tell you how many stars I was resolving out of it, but it was really a great view. And then this was from I observed this at Hawk Mountain, and this is I think an underappreciated nebula. NGC 281. Some people call it the Pac-Man Nebula. And here I used the 18mm with an Orion Ultra Black filter. And I was seeing a lot of nebula. I believe, Rob, you came over and looked through the scope then too.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah, it was very bright.
You could see some really nice detail in the nebula. But you get this thing in really a large aperture telescope, you can really start getting a lot of detail. So it's something that, if you have it, if you have a really good night, you do have a large aperture telescope like we do, like that, this is a really great nebula to go for. And then, yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll back up. Go ahead. We're going to ask.
Well, I was just going to say, the last month when we did our first program, I told you that I had been observing from my driveway, and based on where I had to put my telescope and with my neighbor's lights, I had to pull it back a little bit. So I just took the part of the sky that was available to me, and it was Cassiopeia. So I just started tooling around in there, and that's, I did my program on 147 and 185 and 246, I think it is. But I also looked at this and the owl cluster. First through my refractor one night and then through the 20 the other night. And that owl cluster is a really good cluster. And this also, I remember looking at in my refractor. And even in the 5.5-inch refractor, looked really good.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, it is, you don't hear much about it. And it's easy to find. I mean, if you don't have digital setting circles or a go-to, you're just star hopping, it's real easy to find. And it stands out real well in most telescopes. Like I said, I was just using a 6-inch telescope and getting some nice views through not our darkest site either. So then, of course, I had the 12-inch f4 up at DS Edge, and a couple galaxies I want to talk about here. This is NGC 812 in Andromeda. Now, they rate it as a peculiar galaxy. And you can see down here, I have a more of a blow up of the galaxy itself from another image. And there, I couldn't find anything about that this thing has a partner galaxy. Now, there could be something on the other side that we're not seeing, so I'm not certain what makes this unusual look that this galaxy has. But here I was using a 6mm Delos, which is 200, and this is from DS Edge. And I was going to use this for my galaxy log, but I'm going to do this for galaxy log using the 22. I want to see what the 22 could do this thing. It looks really good in the 12-inch. One of the things I noticed was that the northern section, you can actually see in the photograph, stood out much better. And then it really was elongated. There was a bit of a central core to it, a bit of a brighter core modeled, and then it extended farther south here, which is much fainter. But it did look unusual in the 12-inch scope. But I definitely want to see what the 22 can do this. But like I said, they say peculiar. And I'm thinking that maybe there is a companion galaxy on the other side that has some type of gravitational effect on it, because it is kind of odd looking. If you look at it, you can see that down in this area, there's one arm just shooting off to the west here. So this is the southern part of the galaxy here. So it'll be interesting to see what the larger scopes can see out of this thing. But it's a great galaxy to go for. It really is. It's about 12th magnitude. Surface brightness, it's funny because the surface brightness is much higher onto the northern part, and you can actually see it in the photograph. Then it really starts going much fainter towards the southern end. But using averted vision, it really extended well. So great galaxy to go for. And then my final highlight was, I think this was my view of the night, and I'm going to show you coming up my near view image. And this is one of those galaxies that just stands out. I think it's one of the best galaxies this time of year to view. And it's also and I have mentioned in Galaxy Log, because I did the Galaxy Log with this galaxy, and I mentioned there that this is one of those kind of galaxies saying how to Messier miss this one, because this is as bright as some of the brighter Messier galaxies. And but if we go to my near view image, and this is what it looked like. I was using a 5mm extra wide angle, which is their version of the Ethos. And the first thing when I looked at the galaxy in the IP, immediately the galaxy itself was like, wow, you see this nice bright stellar nucleus extending well, going east to west, a bit of modeling like that. And then I just noticed, like, oh, look at that. You can see this faint region over here, which is actually a PG. Now, some people call it, I have it marked up here. This is from Galaxy Log. I have it marked up here. They have it as NGC 1023A, but here's the PGC number. And what it is, it is a background galaxy. It's about 5 million light years farther away than 1023. So it's in part of that group. But this was the smallest telescope that I've actually ever seen the companion galaxy here. And get back to the actual photograph, and here it is. You can see it right here. You can see it has a slightly different color than the main galaxy from this color.
Now, how obvious is that separation then, Karl?
It's not real. It's not. There's no real separation. It almost looks like. I mean, Rob, you came over and looked through it.
It almost looks like not an H2 region, but it almost looks like
an arm, maybe
an arm or something like that.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like right away. It's like, okay, look at that. You can really see that that companion galaxy. I guess we can call companion 5 million light years farther away, but I was really pleased. It was the highlight for me of this entire November, the 2 nights that I had. And of course, I enjoyed this galaxy. I actually did on Galaxy Log, I did near views of both through the 6-inch, because I also looked at it through the 6, and I couldn't see the PGC galaxy with the 6-inch, but I had a nice view through the 6-inch reflector. But the 12-inch really, with this 5 millimeter eyepiece, just really hit home. And I probably 10-15 minutes of actually viewing this, couldn't keep my eye away. I like Rob would say, hey, I got this, I got that, and I'll get down and see Rob, and I'd still keep this thing in there for another 5 or 10 minutes just to view. So it really is a great galaxy to view, and I highly recommend, even for people who've never seen this galaxy before, who are fairly new to galaxy observing or to astronomy itself. It's easy to find, and it stands out real well. Can be seen on much smaller telescopes, even than the 6-inch that I viewed it through. So
that was my first light in my 20.
There you go. Good one. Good one to have.
Yeah. Well.
So, all right. So now we go to Mr. Cordovari. All right. So we go.
All right. So which one are you putting out first?
Yeah, Hickson 10.
All right. Yeah, Hickson 10. So it's kind of like this was a cool little group. The thing that I liked about it is, first of all, you could see all 4 of them, fairly easily. So it's kind of not as easily as, say, Hickson 44, the 3190 group. They don't jump out like that. But what I liked about it was it's kind of shaped a little like Hickson 44, except that you got the 3 in a row. Now that one, the elliptical over there, NGC 529, that doesn't quite fill the spot like 3187 does. But anyway, I like this group. You've got they're like 13th magnitude. You got I guess it was 542 is the faintest one. Yeah, the one down there on the lower left. Cool little edge on. They are, one of those is a 531 is a barred lenticular. That was not that you can really see that through the eyepiece, but that was kind of fun reading up about it afterwards. But I like this group because it was faint enough that you had to look for the faintest member, but it wasn't to where you had to stretch your limits, especially at Hawk Mountain. These I looked at Hawk Mountain, even though we had been out to DS Edge a few nights before. The objects I looked at the edge I didn't include. I wanted to get these groups in here that I saw. I had other objects from the edge that I was going to include, but I decided not to. But I really like this grouping. I looked at it under, let me see what I have here. I looked at it under like 190 power and a 8 millimeter ethos. So you could see, you could clearly make out the spiral structure of 536 and the elliptical shape of 529. And like I said, 541 was the faintest of the group. I'd still like to get this dark window. I'd like to get it under a little darker skies. I'd like to get it from the edge. So yeah, I'd highly recommend it because, you know, some of those Hicksons you have to hunt around for some of the companions. I mean, some of the fainter ones, but this one, it was kind of, it was kind of easy in a 20-inch telescope. I like the view of all four in one eyepiece. They are 200 million light years away.
Wow.
And actually, I should have given you the order. I wanted to go with the NGC group first because I was kind of working from Astronomy Now magazine. I really like their deep sky sections, and this month, the October issue, they had this kind of they were walking you through Andromeda in different distances. And that's the issue that had two of Frank's pictures. The one that had Frank's image of Mirac's ghost and 7640.
Right.
And what the author was doing, this Mark Armstrong, he was just walking you out to like the closer galaxies to
right.
further away, then to a group, then to a cluster. And I ran out of time, so the next one, the first group was the NGC group that you're going to show next. Then it was the Hickson 10,
Right.
and then I didn't get to the Able 262, which I wanted to get to. That's the NGC 708 group, so I'll get that next month. And then he always puts a challenge object in, so I'm going to work on those for this upcoming dark window. But anyway, I'd recommend the 6 and 10. It's a pretty cool group of galaxies, and I like the Hickson groups. I think they're fun to track down because, like I said, some of them are bright enough you can see them all. Some you really have to stretch it to see them.
Right. All right. Here's your next one.
Yeah, so this one was really cool, and this one I wanted to talk to you about. So this is really interesting. This is what I was mentioning earlier when I said I'll wait until we start discussing this, because I know typically the brightest galaxy in a group gets the designation of the group, but this guy Mark Armstrong in Astronomy Now magazine, he tags this as NGC 48 group. So I was curious when you said, hey, I changed it to 51 because that's the brighter galaxy in the group. So I thought, I don't think I got that wrong. So I went back to the magazine, I looked it up, and he clearly says NGC 48 group. Now, one of the other editors in this magazine is, do you know Owen Brazell? Are you familiar with that name?
No.
He's a member of the Webb Society, and he writes a lot of articles for this magazine. So I went on the Webb Society page, and Owen Brazell did have some comments on there, and he refers to it as the NGC 48 group also. And he says in his write-up, he says, the brightest member of the group is NGC 51. So I have to do a little more homework on that, because I'm curious as to why they would, two different deep sky writers would refer to it as the NGC 48 group.
Right.
But regardless, it's a great group because there's 6 galaxies, and they're kind of cool. It's really neat the way that they're positioned. I don't know. So if you can go across those 3 at the top, those are the NGC ones. So it's really funny, like the NGCs are all in a row of 3, and then down below the ICs are all in a row of 3. So when you're looking at them, it's kind of like, I don't know why I kept thinking it was like some kind of a contest. It was like, there's like 2 football teams lined up with 2, it's like the NGCs versus the ICs. One group on the one side and one group on the other side, kind of evenly distributed. But I could see the cores in the 2 in 49 and 51. 48 was a little fainter, and I couldn't see any cores in the IC galaxies, but I could get all 6 in the same field of view, and I think I had those in my 6mm ethos, so that would have been 254. And it was still a wide enough field that you could get all 6 in was high enough power that you could see all 6 of them, but it was still a rather aesthetically pleasing view. So pretty cool group. These ones are 79 million light years away.
Right.
So that was kind of the stepping stone, was to go from 79 million light years away and then jump up to 200 million light years away. Are you familiar with the group? Have you seen them?
Yes, I have.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You saw them. You saw them that night.
Yeah, it's funny because the first thing I noticed too was like with this IC galaxy here, and it made like a diamond shape with these stars right here. So I was like, oh, yeah.
Yeah, and it's funny because if you go up to the 2 NGCs on the left, and then that star down below,
right here.
Yeah, they were making a real easy triangle, which was easy to like jump up to NGC 48. So it was kind of a fun group to tool around in. I enjoyed it. I'll go back to it again under better skies.
Right.
It was good that night up at Hawk for a while, but then, like you said, it kind of deteriorated. So I really want to see these under a little better conditions. So I'm hoping we have better skies.
Yeah, I was just looking there, Rob, just trying to put together why 48 would be capturing the lion's share of attention. Maybe it was a surface brightness thing, but it's not. Really shape and size are.
Yeah, I might just email this guy and ask him about it, because like I said, both of these guys, the one guy from the Webb Society writes for astronomy now, but he didn't write this article. This other guy wrote the article, but they both refer to it as 48. When I looked it online, I couldn't really find anything. Like if you Google NGC 48 group, it brings this up and it says the NGC 48 group is, 6 galaxies, 3 NGCs, 3 ICs. But if you Google NGC 51 group, it brings up the same group and it says 3 spiral galaxies, 3 NGC galaxies and 3 IC galaxies. So I'll do a little more homework on that and let you know what I find out.
Sometimes it's interesting, like the objects, they get their names and designations from, something as simple as somebody observed it at a star party, and that's the way it was discussed, and then that got into print somewhere.
Yeah.
And, that's how like some of these common names pop up. It's kind of like an interesting little like history lesson when you like walk back through how some of these objects get named and get their designations.
Right. And then the other thing you see a lot of times is in certain constellations, the beta star is the brighter star than the alpha star. And it's like, well, why did you do that? Like,
right.
yeah. So anyway, I'd recommend this. And then the last one, Josh, you kind of motivated me on this one a little bit, but I was telling Karl this was kind of funny. The night I was loading up my telescope to go up to DS Edge, I was packing things up in the garage, and this piece of paper fell down from my binder that I keep some of my notes in, and it fell on the floor, and I picked it up, and it was an observing list from like 3 or 4 years ago that I had lost, and it was magical. It just fell out on the ground, and I just picked it up, and I go, oh my God, look at all these objects, and they're for like October dark window, and some of them were from Astronomy Now magazine. So it had Able 12 in Orion, and the little note next to it said look for the faint. Look for faint planetary next to bright star. So I thought, well, that sounds kind of cool, because you showed that galaxy last time. Which one was it that?
Oh yeah, I can't remember off the top of my head, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, because
similar to the Ghost of Mirok.
Yeah, and I wanted to ask you what I want to find out what star that was, because the next dark window, if we're up at the edge and it's a good night, I want to see if I can push the telescope to find that. But so anyway, this is a really cool object if you like these kind of like the object of 1023A, like another object popping behind, a closer object. This is a a pretty cool planetary, and I think it would be a very good planetary if it stood out on its own. It's very round, kind of like in this photograph. I can't remember the name of the star now. It might be Mu Orionis, but it's a star right above Betelgeuse. It's real easy to find, just naked eye and star hop to it. But I looked at it up at the edge, but I forgot to put a filter on it. So when we're up at Hawk Mountain, I threw the Nebustar on it, and it really brought it out nicely. Hey, is this like the Oscars music, like telling me to like hurry up and finish my speech?
No, that's so I can get a drink.
I thought I hear the music playing, and but yeah, this is actually a really cool object. I really enjoyed looking at this just because like you could catch a glimpse of it without the filter, but then when you pop the filter on it kind of stands out pretty cool. So it's kind of cool, and you see these things. It's kind of like, I see you hiding there behind that star, and you're not gonna get away tonight. So anyway, those were my 3 objects from Hawk Mountain. It was a pretty nice night. I got out twice that dark window. It was really fun to be out, and looking forward to this one.
Sounds good.
Have you guys ever used like a occulting eyepiece where like you actually mark off an area of the eyepiece to knock down a bright star in a field?
Yeah,
No, I've never
That's
done
not
that.
something I've ever really heard anybody do. I don't know.
Yeah, never
It's
tried it.
possible. If anybody's ever really tried it, or
I think photographers have done it like that, because you can go online and find other images that you can really see the star dim down and the nebula really popping out. So there's other ones that I guess that masked off the star. But this image here kind of reminds me more of what Rob was seeing through the 20-inch. So it is, as Rob says, it is a neat, and it would be nice if it was a few arc minutes away from this bright star.
Yeah.
And that you, because you're right, it would stand out as one of the better winter planetary nebula. Because yeah, it was really nice view, Rob. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was fun.
yeah, and the neat part being that it's a planetary next to a star. If you get your right filter sequence on that, you can
Sure.
probably really make it pop.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, that's it.
Any hint of a central star in there?
No.
Not gonna remember. No.
No.
Okay.
All right. So we're going to Josh's obscure universe.
All right. Well, that was actually a perfect segue, Rob, because there's going to be something similar in my 3 objects here.
All right.
So here you go.
Oh, nice.
I see a theme here. So I figure, Josh's obscure universe, why not have an object that's only 8.58 light years away and has a negative magnitude to it? I mean, after all, this is easily observed naked eye, so what could possibly be obscure or challenging? Well, just leave me at it long enough and I'll find out a way. So what makes this one challenging is the pup. So Sirius is a double star, and I believe it's got an orbit of around 50 years. And right now, if the information I gathered on this is correct, that's sitting 11.2 arc seconds away from Sirius. Sirius, negative 1.44 magnitude, and this star is 8.43 magnitude. So it is very tricky to detect. The key is good seeing. You want Sirius to be really stable, not hopping and popping and bloated and spread out. You can get a good crisp image of Sirius. You can round this up fairly easily right now because the separation is so good. Now, if you're using a big Dob to do this, you want to be careful to view it when it's not in a diffraction spike. I actually chose this picture because it shows well how it can land right in a diffraction spike. So if you go for this and you're not sure if you're seeing it, maybe give it a little bit of time, come back and hit it again if you're using a Dob, because if it was laying in the diffraction spike, there's a good chance you'll miss it. With my scope, I can actually see it when it is in the diffraction spike, but it's very tricky. So this is a fun challenge. Couple of double star guys in the club really enjoy going for this one.
Josh,
And-
can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Did you do a wild dance when you found it?
No, unlike I was gonna say Lionel, our go-to double star guy in the Chesmont Club, he was hunting this one for years, and a few years back it finally got separated enough for him to see it, and he was all excited and did the double star dance, the puck dance, and it was funny because I up until that point I had heard it was a double star. I was unaware that there was any potential of anybody splitting it. Double stars aren't my thing. So immediately I was like, well, this is a challenge, obviously, because Lionel actually is doing a dance in the middle of the field over this. So
All right,
I was like, well, I'll give it a whirl. And
I didn't mean to ruin your surprise there. I didn't know if you knew that story or not.
yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, I swung over to it and was able to easily split it. And so it's always fun when you have a good quality daub to keep up with the more, let's say, quote unquote, refined optics. If you have a good optic in a large daub, there's little you can't do.
Yeah, I remember you were showing me one night up at Frank's about doing this, and I'd never thought about doing it before. So I'll have to give that a try.
Yep. Just keep track of your diffraction spike. If it's buried in the spike, it's much more difficult. So if you have good seeing and the star is fairly steady, you should be able to pick it up fairly readily. So yeah, that's the obscure, not so obscure universe. So this one here, again, we're kind of sticking with this theme of what's in and around the stars. So the reason I like these is sometimes when you're hunting out on the edge of what you're capable of seeing from a certain site with a certain scope on a certain night, there's actually like an element, I believe, of eye strain that results throughout the course of the evening as the night wears on. If you've been pushing the limits of the scope for a while, it's almost like a form of eye fatigue, a form of actually you just being more tired. I feel anyway that it becomes difficult to really get focused on the field of view. And if you have a bright field star or two, not exceptionally bright, but just bright enough to give you something to really look at, I believe it really helps you pin down the faint, fuzzy stuff. It gives you a reference point to get a really crisp focus, and it just keeps your attention drawn in more. And overall, it also just offers like an aesthetic beauty, especially with the larger daubs where the field stars become brighter and brighter. You begin to pick up a lot of the color differences, and the galaxy appears just as the classic, soft white smudge, but the star in the eyepiece looks very similar to this. It has a yellowish glow to it, and it just makes for a real pretty view. Now this galaxy is mag 15.48, so it's starting to get dim. I observed this from one of the local dark sites, so that was pretty good to get that far down the magnitude chain from a local site, and 290 million light years away. So it's starting to get out there a little bit. Now I used high power. I should not say high power. I used medium power for this, not high power, medium power, 363, and yeah, it's just a pretty view. This sits out above the head of Taurus, kind of like across from the Pleiades, so it's pretty easy to find. And the separation on that star and the galaxy is right around 59 arc seconds, so it's a pretty good split. Like you can easily see them both, and it frames nicely. I used my 7 Pentex, and that gives not quite a 1/4 degree field of view, and it framed real nicely in there with room to spare.
And Josh, what is that star?
I don't know. It just had a very generic. It's nothing you can see naked eye. Obviously,
Okay.
at 8.9 mag, it's just a generic star catalog name for it. I'm not exactly sure what it is off the top of my head.
Okay.
All right.
So this one here, this is not so obscure, but again, the reason I like it is just the overall aesthetics of the field of view. There's some nice star patterns in there that you can use to correlate your focus with, and really pretty galaxy. 2742 in Ursa Major. Now, the reason I'm putting this in, you know, my obscure universe, even though it's 11.48 mag and only 68 million light years away, is there's a lot of detail here that's seen in photographs that I was not able to pick up on from the local dark site. This is definitely the kind of object that would really, I think, take to good skies, and I'm anxious to put this against some better skies in the future. The detail, the spiral structure, the arms, that's all stuff that really wakes up when you can get to high elevation, and you can get a really transparent sky, and when you can get those ultra black dark skies. So this to me is, even though it's, you know, only 68 million light years away and 11.5 magnitude, approximately 11.5 magnitude, this could be something where you really start picking it apart at higher power from better skies and pick up some of the obscure arms and tendrils and dark regions in this that show up on the photographs.
Yeah.
So
Beautiful looking galaxy.
Yeah, this is one that I'm kind of curious to pick apart. Unlike a bright elliptical where kind of what you see is what you get.
Right.
I think there's a lot of potential structure,
Yeah.
to be found from better skies.
Yeah, I guess the surface brightness is fairly high in this one too, right?
I believe so. I don't have.
Yeah, I believe it is. And like you said, which means you could, you know, in a really good night, you can really push the magnification also to see a lot of that internal detail.
Yep.
Yeah.
Now it was interesting because somewhere along the way, so I got 11.48 mag as a listing somewhere, and another one I got 12.3. So the magnitude, something's up with the magnitude on this one.
Mhm.
As far as I can't remember the sources I got that from. I just had it noted.
Right.
Kind of as a curiosity. But yeah, I'm anxious to get this one under better, darker skies and see what can be picked apart out of it. But
Hey,
again,
Josh,
this
just
star
looking.
offers a pretty, pretty view, frames nicely. I used the 10 ethos for this observation, and that gives me about half a degree, 0.4 degree field of view, 254 power, and yeah, it all framed very nicely in that eyepiece.
Very good.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm just looking at this on Sky Safari. So they listed as a 11th magnitude.
Yep.
But there's a 2742A. Did you see that?
No.
Let me see what that shows. Hold on.
It's got to be an entirely different galaxy because
Yeah.
there's
It is an entirely different galaxy.
no companion with that.
Mm.
None that I
Yeah.
observed, anyway.
Yeah, this 2742A has some, looks like its own galaxy with some PGC companion galaxies. So that's kind of strange.
Yeah, it is.
Well, maybe that's where the cross magnitude came from. Whatever's got those designations running
Sure.
a 2742 and a 2742A.
Possible.
Well, there you go.
Yes, you're absolutely right, because 2742A shows 14th magnitude.
Well, I'm making it obscure.
Very good.
It's
So
getting dimmer the longer we talk. I didn't even realize any of that. So now I can't wait to dig into it deeper.
No, that's really interesting. I'm gonna look into that too, because that's kind of fun. I've never seen that where they're not together when they have that A designation.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of strange. So that's it.
All righty.
All right, well, that's
All
it
right.
for the November of 2020 Astro Observer highlights.
Discussion with the last object on the galaxy NGC 2742 in Ursa Major. There was some confusion of another galaxy that Rob mentions, NGC 2742A. And it turns out that NGC 2742A is a galaxy about 2 degrees northeast of 2742. It's also numbered UGC 4803. So that's where the confusion comes from. If you go into any sky survey and put in NGC 2742A, it will take you to UGC 4803. So I also included a little bit closer up image of it. Looks like an interesting galaxy, and that should clear up what we were trying to figure out.